This episode is brought to you by Estruzi Golf. Hey coach, I know you're a golf nerd just like me. I have a data point you're going to want to hear, but this one is a bit different. Have you ever thought of the value your coaching business adds to your facility? Here's an interesting stat brought to you by Estruzi. Lesson takers spend 65% more on F&B than non-lesson takers. Stick around to hear how much new F&B revenue your business adds to your facility.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, and I'm the Director of Instruction at the beautiful Collinsville River Club in Bluffton, South Carolina, where it is my mission to break down high performers in the teaching and coaching business in all fields of study, unpack and tease out what makes them great and successful, from daily habits to how they operate with their students, or in the case of our next guest, what are they doing with their businesses or their employees. Make sure you download this episode and hit that purple subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes that will be coming your way. All I ask is that you share this podcast on social or with your friends, with other coaches and players that might benefit from the information. I also have a couple of asks if you don't mind. I am upgrading my website and have changed the domain to golfgurushow.com, so go check that out. Please go and subscribe to it and you will get an email after every post, and I am posting the videos of these podcasts as well on there. I'm also posting the videos on my YouTube channel, so go follow me there as well. That would be awesome. My guest on this episode is Igor Vainshtein. Igor would fall under the all fields of study category, as he is not a golf instructor. Who is Igor, you may ask? Igor is a serial entrepreneur that has developed over 12 multi-million-dollar businesses over the years, and recently has developed the business called 24/7 Golf, which was a golf indoor complex that allowed you to come and practice and play in simulators, and now owns the most affordable golf simulator that runs on your phone, on your iPhone, called Golftrak, which is pretty cool. You can go to Golftrak.app and check it out and purchase one. And there is going to be a promo code in the show notes for a discount or some free time. So go check that out as well. But honestly, that is not why I was excited to have him on the show. It is his story of perseverance, drive, and passion, and the adversity he's gone through in his life to get to this point that I was really inspired about. Igor was born in Russia. He moved to Australia when he was 11 and now resides in the US. He's been here for a couple of years, but his journey is like a movie. So I was very excited to dig into the details of what makes him tick and really what makes him keep going over so many years of failures and successes, just like we've all had as successful teaching pros, but from another genre. Igor is so smart and he's so business savvy that we agreed that there were so many parallels between golf instruction and entrepreneurship. He is truly making a difference in our industry, and I hope it comes through in this wide-ranging conversation with the brilliant and talented Igor Vainshtein. Enjoy. All right, Igor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I should have recorded the first 5 minutes, but you were talking about your golf game and sort of your passion for golf, and we'll get into that. But in the other spectrum, I'm more interested in your side of the business, which is the entrepreneurship and the personal growth and all that stuff is interesting to me. So I was really excited to have you on the show, because it's different than what I usually have, which is boring teaching professionals, right? We listen to, which you get really excited about, but I listen to podcasts that like are in your world, which is how do you do startups and how do you make money, and that's so interesting to me. So I'm so excited to dig into it. I've got so many questions.
And it's right. Obviously I can share some golf tips now. I won't actually, but I love business in the way that I see business and golf to be very similar, from a psychological point of view, from mental performance and just the grind. It's actually really similar. It's one of the few sports I think that has that similarity. I actually haven't really found another one Yeah. So I like, except maybe poker. I wouldn't call that a sport, but
Yeah, but there's a lot to that. You know, we talk about probability in our coaching, right? It's like we're big on stats and trying to stack the deck in our favor with our players. So yeah, you're 100%. Like it's really cool that we've connected. And I don't want to sleep on your journey though. Like I think that like I've done a lot of research on you and I know your story. It's super fascinating. It's very interesting. Again, for me, like I got excited. I've listened to it on a couple of my runs and share, because people don't realize the journey and the passion that you've created to get to golf, right? It's like there's so much more. Don't leave anything out, okay?
Okay.
So I know you grew up in Russia, right? Very, very close to the Ukraine, and then moved to Australia. So talk a little bit about your childhood, because I think that's an important part of your journey and like how you got to the US, and that'll be a good start.
Sure. I'll tell you one story, which I used to actually have on my LinkedIn profile. I took it off, I don't know. I should put it back on, but I was born in a place called Moldova, which is one of the republics of former Soviet Union. It's right next to Ukraine. So my mom's from Ukraine. So I spent my summers in Ukraine with my grandmother. So childhood fun and games and stuff. But there's one particular really interesting moment that I will never forget. So I was in a school camp in Sevastopol, the part of Crimea, obviously, pretty hot topic these days. We went there in a school camp and there's a beach there, and we went to the beach and I hated the beach. I love the beach now, having grown up in Australia, but back then I hated the beach. But back in USSR, like there was no water that you could buy on like anywhere, right? You couldn't just go and like buy a bottle of water on the beach. And so you had to carry your own little cups or bottles or whatever, and you had to go find water somewhere at like a tap, and there was no cups. Like even like the street vendors would sell like this drink called kvass, which is really cool. Most Westerners hate it, but we love it. But you had to bring your own cup because there's no cups. Welcome to communism, right? So I had this idea. I was like 6 or 7. I could have took my backpack and I loaded up all these empty, like I washed these glass bottles from milk and other stuff. And I took them with me and I would sell them. I would sell water on the beach. I would fill them with water. I would sell it on the beach. And I got into a lot of trouble. But when we got back to Moldova, my parents got called up into the Communist Party headquarters. And they were sat down and they were told off, they were chastised for, and this is literally a quote, they said, "You are raising a little bourgeoisie pig." That's what they called me, a bourgeoisie pig. And so that was really funny. My parents were very proud. And they're like, we've got to get out of this place. And, came to Australia in 91. So I was almost 11, grew up in Australia. And I was pretty normal. I mean, I had this entrepreneurial bug since I was a kid. Just kind of was born with it. Started my first business, I think, when I was like 17 or 16. Doing websites. This is when the internet first came out. And so I've had the bug, but I was a tech guy. I'm a geek. Like I used to have really fat glasses as well, by the way. I had laser eye surgery in 2003. But I was a tech geek. So I love numbers, which just kind of brings me back to the whole, we'll come back to the whole golf simulator space and all the numbers, right? Yeah. But I've always, I was good with maths. I was good at business and sort of accounting and numbers. And then basically I was working in tech, and a very good friend of mine who's actually used to be a professional poker player, he was quite a good golfer, and he's like, "Why don't you try it? Like, you might like it." And I was like, I played like during college. I played like a couple of times a year. Just hit a ball. I couldn't hit it. I would hit 2 fairways to the right. Massive slice. Big shoulders. So try to hit it hard and go look for the ball for 30 minutes. And so I didn't enjoy it. And my friend said, "Why don't you start getting lessons?" And there was a business in Melbourne called Golftrak, which was not related to Golftrak here in the US.
I was going to say we're going to come back to that with your...
We will, yeah. This is another amazing story of how things just go in a loop. So I joined, it had 6 golf bays and had lessons. And so I joined to start getting lessons, and it was going out of business. And so my friend, the one that introduced me to it, and I said, "Hey, why don't we buy it?" So we bought it, and we moved it into downtown middle of Melbourne, took like a 6,000 square foot space on one of the main roads, and built Golftrak Australia. And I really, at that point, even just before we started, I just fell in love with golf. I don't know, it must have been that one shot that was perfect. And that was it. I was hooked for life. And I fell in love with it. And I'm just so addicted to this day. But the story with Golftrak is interesting. And I'm sorry, kind of going on this windy road.
That's okay. And we got to go way back here in a second, because you're leaving out a ton of stuff that I want to talk about. But you can go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. So, and then one day I get a phone call from Joe Assel, the founder and CEO of Golftrak USA. And he's like, kind of, "Who the hell are you? And why do you have our name?" I'm like, "Who the hell are you?" And we became friends. And, I came out to Denver to visit them. They came out to Australia. We took him out to Royal Melbourne. He took me out to Cherry Hills over in Denver. Obviously, amazing course there. And we tried to merge the businesses, but it failed. And then we stayed in touch, but stayed as friends. And then I got out of kind of Golftrak, started this thing called 24/7 Golf, which was, I think, maybe first in the world, like unmanned 24-hour golf
Right.
simulator business where you
Come
could go
in, swipe,
anytime.
and just hit and practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I opened the first one near my house. It did quite well. And then I opened the second one in downtown, but it was up 2 flights of stairs. It was a terrible location. And long story short, it went out of business. And I had 4 simulators left over. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Can I try to, I lost a lot of money at this time. So I'm like, I'm going to sell this on Facebook Marketplace. So I did. And it sold like really quickly and really, I'm like, oh, this is cool. So
Is that when Golftech bought that, or is that just an individual just bought it just for their house?
That was me. I just sold it on Facebook Marketplace to 4 random people.
Yeah, but who bought it though?
Just people. Just
random people for the house. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I went, oh, this is kind of interesting. So this time Joe Ass introduced me to SkyTrack. So I bought a few more SkyTracks and I sold those online. And I went, this is so much easier than running this venue. So I closed my other one and I pivoted 24/7 Golf to e-commerce. And then in Australia, you couldn't get enclosures and it was a very small market. So no one would service it from the US. It was too expensive to ship. So I developed my own enclosure and mats and all of those accessories and I started manufacturing in China. I'm really condensing this part of the story.
Yeah, it's
expanded to the US, opened in Europe as well, then moved to the US. And I was pitching Golftech and SkyTrack to sell my enclosures as part of their business to their customers. And one day Joe called me and was like, hey, we just bought SkyTrack and we'd like to buy your business. I went, oh,
yeah,
that's interesting. And here I am. So I sold my company to Golftech, 12, 13 years after first meeting them and through that one phone call. So that's kind of the loop of kind of how I ended up here.
No, it's good. But I want to go back though.
What did I leave out?
Well, there's a lot, right? So it's like, I think the entrepreneurial journey, what I'm always fascinated by, and we talk about this in the golf business too, is the failures that lead to success, right?
Yeah.
So, and especially with you guys, because you're working without a net, right? It's like you've got this big idea, and I want to dig more into the process of like how these ideas come about. And I've got a lot of questions about that, but I'm going to help you out here. Okay. So you graduate high school, you go through college, right? And you're working the whole time, right? It's like you got a lot of really.
Don't turn up. I don't turn up to college. I just don't turn up to the exam.
Right. But you got a degree somehow.
I did. Yeah. I don't know how.
Right. But the point is the mindset is you were working the whole time, right? You talk about that little step and then you started building businesses right out of at your early 20s. Right.
Yeah,
and then you lose money, and then you tell them through that part.
Lose money is an understatement. All right. Lose money is an understatement.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
All right. Got it. So look, I've always wanted to run business, right? I love the idea of building something. I used to play computer games when I was a kid. My favorite game was Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization. Best game in the world ever made, I think. And, you build empires and stuff. And
what's the equivalent nowadays for these kids?
The funny thing is there's nothing really equivalent.
Really?
The last Civilization was 6, I think, maybe 15 years ago. And it hasn't been the same since. It was a true strategy game. And to be honest, I haven't played games for a long time.
There's another idea for you.
Yeah, I know. Maybe there is something now, but I just don't know it.
Fortnite has kind of got the block, I think.
Don't worry, my 9-year-old is on Fortnite. He's on it right now, actually.
There you go.
So I wanted to run my own business, but we came to Australia with $200 and 4 suitcases, and that was it. My parents, they were in their mid-30s, with a kid, me. We didn't speak English.
Unbelievable.
We just came, we just landed, and it's like, what do you do, right? And you hustle. And I think I'm going to make a motherhood statement here. This is what makes countries like America great, Australia great. Like the hustle of the immigrant is unbeatable. And now I'm, a little bit more successful, and I'm part of this network called the Entrepreneurs Organization, where founders, owners join, and it's a networking thing, but you have these really amazing meetings. Part of this sort of this dad's club thing where people talk about how to be a great dad as well as a great entrepreneur. And we were sitting at a table one day and talking about how we're all came from nothing. I think 10 of us at the table, and we're all successful, and we'll have kids. And we're like, how do we teach our kids the hunger that we had? And someone made a statement that I want to put on a plaque, right? And it says, you cannot fake poverty.
That's right. Yeah, I heard you talk about that on another show. That's the one I was talking. That's the stories that I want, because and I'm going through the same thing. It's like we can't really simulate that, and we don't really want to, right? It's like
you got to use something else.
Right. Exactly. So continue, because I think that's a big part of it is like you coming, regardless. And I work with a lot of players that come from Asia, and they come over and they can't speak English. It's like, that's a hurdle, right? We haven't had to deal with that here in America, right? It's unbelievable, right? It's like the battles and the obstacles that you've gone through. Like, how was that in high school? Like, how long did it take you to feel comfortable just like making friends and then moving on to...
Yeah, a long time. I almost never felt comfortable. And maybe that's the secret to it.
I think so.
Comfort breeds complacency, I think. And complacency is a very dangerous and a slippery slope. I mean, even speaking to me now, I can speak 2 languages completely fluently without accent. Well, with an Aussie accent, maybe. I don't know if I've got my Texas twang yet, but...
You got half and half, I think, right now.
Okay, right. So, the language barrier, but also you see other kids have all these things, and you want these things. And you want, and I remember buying my first car. I bought a Ford Capri, blue convertible, and I had to borrow, I didn't have the money, so I borrowed money from a friend of my parents. And I said, could I please borrow some $12,000? I was 17 or 18, I can't remember, whatever. Right? And 98. So it's a lot of money. And I had to go and build a business, get a job. Or I was contracting. So it was like I was like a self-employed, contractor, and I was building websites and I was good at it. And I had to borrow money to buy my first car. I almost borrow money at all points. And the other great skill that I think I learned by surprise, because I was a really good tech guy. I was a super geek, which I get from my dad. My dad's a software engineer, still works full time. But, I was good at that, and that got me a good head start in my career in IT. But then at one point, I was in consulting and IT consulting. And I started winning a lot of work for my employer. I would go into a project and I would find out opportunities and I would get the opportunities, which in the end, I was the youngest senior consultant for a company called SAP, big German company. I think they sponsor a lot of golf. I was the youngest senior consultant. I was 22 in the whole world out of 20, 30,000 employees. And then they told me that I have to stay there for 10 years because I was too young, which didn't go down well with me. And so I quit and started my own business.
Of course you did. Yeah. It's that's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? It's you really don't want to work for anybody, right?
No, I have figured out that I'm basically unemployable.
Yeah, I love it.
But then again, when I hire people, I also try to make the most. I try to leave the runway for them because that's what I wanted people to let me do, is just give me a runway and let me do my best. But we'll come back to that.
Yeah. There were 3 stories that you talked about where you built businesses, you lost everything, you built business. And I think there were some real learning moments in there that you shared on another podcast that I would think would be very valuable for the listeners.
So the first actual business I built, my first success was with property. So one of my dad's friends, whose name is Igor as well, if maybe he's listening, although I'm the only Igor in the whole golf industry, by the way. So just easy to remember.
Yes.
He gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Great book.
19, great book. Actually, I just bought the kids' version for my son. Yesterday it arrived on Amazon. He started reading it yesterday and I was in heaven. He was telling me about what he learned. My heart was melting. It was great. So I read that book, and then at the time he had another book, one of his advisors, called Real Estate Riches by Dolph DeRoos, who was a Kiwi, a New Zealander. And I read that, and it was basically buy, renovate, revalue, get the equity out, buy the next one, and etc. And my parents helped me buy the first one when I was 20. And I just basically this life sounds like a good plan. And I ended up with, I think, 14 properties in 2 years. So $3.5 million in value, probably maybe $1 million in equity at that point, because I would buy and revalue. But at the same time, and again, I don't know if I went into this story in other podcasts, but I was also very miserable. I was going through really bad depression. And I only started talking about just how bad that depression was only a couple of years ago. It took me a long time to be able to talk about just how. So on one side, I had all this money, paper money. And all my friends were still at college. A lot of my friends are doctors and lawyers, so they stayed till their late 20s in college. I was finished at 20 years old. I was finished college. I was living by myself in Bondi Beach, which is paradise on earth. But I was really lonely and really miserable.
Why do you think you were sad?
It was just very lonely because I kind of went through my growth phase so early in my life. And all my friends were still, they were... I remember going on a Kentucky trip. Kentucky is in Europe. They do these trips like backpackers, but it's really cheap, and it's just you drink around Europe basically. I already had my Platinum Amex, and so I'm these guys are putting coins together to pay for a beer, and I'm I just throw a Platinum Amex on the bar. And go,
you're a rich man.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was just so ahead of all of this, and I had a career, and I started traveling the world with work. And I work in Asia. And so it was very lonely at the top, which that's what it felt like. I was at the top of this mountain and I was all by myself, and it was really, and also I wasn't healthy. And so, I was very overweight. I had a terrible diet. Because, when we came to Australia, right, you got to think about this, right? We landed May 10th, right, 1991. So on May 8th, when we're in Moscow, leaving, right, you go, there's no supermarkets. There's shops, but there's no supermarket. You go into a shop, there's shelves. There's nothing on the shelves, right? If you want to buy something, you have to go to the black market. right? So there's no food. And we landed in Australia, and I remember like a 2-minute walk from our house was a supermarket. It's a small one, not like a Walmart, like a little corner supermarket. And we walk in, and our jaws just dropped. So there's just
the whole world
just
opened up,
just stacked with just food and drinks, and so Tim Tams, which is a great Australian dessert, like biscuit. And so we would just eat like there was no tomorrow because we didn't have that. So we ballooned out. I was like 240 pounds when I was 13 years old. So it's very unhealthy. I was, traveling a lot, very, very sort of lonely, and just a recipe, away from my family. A good recipe for disaster, really. But I got into all these self-help books, and they said you have to quit your job to be happy. So I did. And then I
forgot to tell you, they need another job first before you quit the job.
Yeah, they forgot to say, like, you need cash flow to survive.
There you go. Yeah. I know.
Especially when you have 14 mortgages, right? And so, and something happened freaky. Talk about sliding doors moments, right? So the bank had bought all these properties. Like the last 8 properties I bought at that time, the bank never called my employer to check my employment. And when I was just closing on one of my deals, they randomly decided to call. And I had like all my properties with one bank. And they were told, he doesn't work here anymore. He quit last month. And that's a breach of contract.
Oh, my gosh.
So basically they called me and said, you have like 30 days to basically fire sell the properties or this. And, I was 22. I had no idea.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy.
So I lost. And before that, I also started investing with this other, I call it the 3 idiots, and I was the 4th idiot, into this business, marketing business. It was a terrible idea. And I put in a lot of my equity. Long story short, I lost everything but 2 properties. So I lost 12 out of 14 properties. At a fire sale, the bank basically took it from under me. That's probably one of my stories which I talk about a little bit, where I had nothing. I had my car, red sports car, of course.
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah, and I'm like, I have to go find some work. So I called my former, this company in Queensland called Powerland Queensland, who used to do some work at when I was with SAP. And I said, look, do you need any help? And they said, yeah, we'd love to have you over. And so they're like, come up. This was like a Thursday. And they're like, come up, start on Monday, or something like that. It was a very quick turnaround. And I get into my Honda Integra Type R, and I drive from Sydney to Brisbane. And it's like, I remember I had no money for petrol. I had a full tank. I had enough just to get there. And I was driving into Brisbane. I remember I organized to stay with a friend for free. And I pulled into a petrol station. I was starving. I had no money for food, just enough for petrol. And that's the story where I was like, I need calories and I need caffeine. I'm like, so the only thing that can meet that criteria is a Coke.
Oh, gosh.
So I had bought a can of Coke for $1.80, and I had a $2 coin, and I got 20 cents change. And I remember looking at that 20 cents going, this is all I got. I'm like, what am I doing? And again, it took me like, I don't know how many, 20 years to be able to share that story, because I was too embarrassed to tell my parents, because they bailed me out so many times, and, I'm forever grateful to them. They know that. But we went through a pain. But
and you've got an interview tomorrow to try to make some money.
Yeah, pretty much. And I had to like a dry cleaner's suit. This is back in the day where you couldn't just go to work in this. You actually had to have a suit. And actually, this is another story. I think if you talk about entrepreneurship, right, there's all these stories of huge success. I love reading biographies of huge success. But my favorite one, and if you haven't read it, you must, right, is Shoe Dog by the guy that started Nike.
Oh, yeah.
That is the
I need
best
to read
book.
that.
It's amazing because he tells it for real. Because a lot of success comes from very tiny sliding doors moments, little bits of luck, of bad luck or good luck. And I had to dry clean my suit. I'm like, how am I going to get my suit dry cleaned? I don't have any money. I was too embarrassed to ask like my friend or even my parents. I stopped talking to them because I was so embarrassed about my situation. And I had this really fat wallet, right? I had like way fatter than this. And it had all these papers in it. I used to be like a receipt hoarder because I had to submit receipts for my work. And I'm like, I'm just going to start going through my wallet. Maybe there's like a $20 note hidden somewhere, And I found 2 checks, uncashed checks that they were sitting in my wallet. They were like $600-700, right? But it was a Sunday. And so I went to a place called Cash Converters, which is basically a pawn shop. And they will cash your check, but take a 30% cut.
Oh, yeah, they're going to take a cut. Yeah.
Right. So I did that because I'm like, I needed the money.
I had to.
And then I used that money to do an overnight dry clean of the suit. And I turned up on Monday for work. And from that Monday to 4 years later, I built a company that was doing $4.5 million revenue.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Right.
Now, what was that company?
So that was called Adept Connections. It was a SAP consulting business. So it was like in change management, training, sort of implementing these big projects and teaching people how to adopt new processes and do process redesign. This kind of brings me back. If I had to kind of share what made me successful, because it took me a while to realize what it was. I was going on instinct, It took me reflection later to work out what it was. And I asked them, I said, why did you say yes to me? I was 23. Like, I was a little schmuck. Like, why did you take me? And they said, out of all the consultants, and they had Anderson Consulting and before Accenture, right? And Deloitte, and they had all these guys, and they picked me. And they said, whenever we come to you with a problem, your answer was always, let me work it out. And you'd go away and you'd work it out. Because you never said, oh, look, that can't be done. Nah, it's not possible. And basically, it was that attitude that allowed me to win all this. I would win work with the biggest companies in Australia, multi-billion-dollar companies, multinationals. And it was all because I would always try to find a way to get a solution.
Yeah, I think that's where golf instruction, and at least on my side, is synonymous with what you do, is we're just trying to solve problems, right? But you got to know what the problem is, right? Like that's when you talked about, I love how you talk about, like, one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, where do the ideas come from? Like you got to have a problem first, and then it's up to you to create the solution, and now you have an idea, right?
Yeah, someone came to me the other day with an business idea, and I listened to him, and I kind of said, look, I'll come back to you tomorrow. I have reservations. And so I called him back and I said, listen, you have a solution looking for a problem.
That's a wrong direction.
Completely. You'll never succeed with that. So you got to be successful in business, you need to see problems. And there's a great book called The Trick to Money is Having Some. Another one of my favorites. And he says there's a really simple way to making money. Like, because this is just one secret, which is find a problem that needs solving, solve it, and people will pay you. The bigger the problem, the more people, the more money you make. Very simple. That's it. That's the end of the formula.
Yeah, gotta have the need. Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah. And so when I started this business, which I didn't intend to start, this consulting company, I guess the problem was that these companies had these projects and they needed to train their people, and there was just no one really providing that ability to solve that problem. And so,
the other problem that you were broke.
That was a big problem.
Right? It's like, I think that's what makes you tick, though. It's like you've come from such, like you said, means that you're hungrier than everybody else that's like kind of grown up with it.
In the same, I heard that with golf as well. Like if you think about the most successful golfers, like aren't they the ones who they just out hunger you?
Yeah, there's something in there, right? It's like, that's, one of the questions you kind of already answered was like, where does that come from, right? It's like, you think you're born with it. There has to be some parental guidance there, especially coming from a communist country where it's like it's the opposite of what they would instill in you. Like that's why your journey's so amazing. It's like you've broken the mold of really where you grew up, right?
I think naturally we want to be able to I think if you've grown up in a very poor area, I watched, for the first time somehow on the last flight I had a few days ago, I watched 8 Mile, the Eminem story.
Oh, yeah. Seen it 100 times.
You look at it, it's just, wow. How do you survive that, let alone go to that point? And I was watching another podcast of Jordan Peterson with Adrian Grenier, Vince in The Entourage, which was one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah, me too.
He was the same. He was living on the streets of New York. I think there's something about having that hunger. And if you can be hungrier than anyone else in the room, you will find a way. Whereas other people, they go, well, look, if I don't find a way, I can still eat. It's like, if you can't eat.
Yeah, it's survival, right? It's truly survival. All right, so continue, because now you've built this business. And then the next story before we get to your golf story is my favorite. And I have some questions about this one.
Okay, I hope it's the right story. So basically, the short version is I built this business. I gave 40% of the business to this couple that used to work for me. Is that the story?
That's the one. Yes.
Okay. So as I was building the business, I had about, I can't remember, I think I got to about 6-7 people. And I'm like, I'm really good at sales. I figured that out was by accident, right? I'm good at sales. So I'm like, I need to, and by the way, that's the first skill I taught my kids.
Yes.
How to sell.
There you go.
I'm like, my kids, can sell ice to Eskimo. It's great. Except they negotiate with me all the time. It's really annoying.
Yeah, when they come back at you, it's not so fun.
I planted the seed, so, I got to take responsibility. These guys working for me, they were a couple. And I said, look, why don't you run the projects? I'll do the sales, you run the project. And that's what happened. And we ended up building to 22 consultants. And, it was succeeding really well. And then all of a sudden, I woke up one day with this really bad feeling and in a panic attack. I remember to this day, I was working with Village Roadshow, which is one of the main movie distribution companies. They actually own the Topgolf franchise for Australia now. And I had a project. Hey, I woke up, I was just like, something's wrong. And I had this horrible feeling, and I called my lawyers, and I called my this, and I called my that. advisors, and I said, look, I think something's bad happening. And they said, no. I don't know. I convinced them, they convinced me, whatever, that everything's okay. 6 months later, these guys did a backdoor contract with two of the biggest customers I have, which is, one of the biggest companies in the world, Rio Tinto. And basically, literally overnight, I lost 80% of my revenue. 1st of January, 2007.
Yeah, so there's where I have the question. All right. So, and you left out a little bit of a part of that where, like you said, you weren't real happy with the direction you were going. You said you were kind of miserable. It's almost like you're ready to move on, right? But you've got these people around you and you're doing sales work and they're not recognizing like how valuable, like you built this whole business, right? This is what's interesting because it's almost like the boss that's like built the whole thing. And then the employees are like, oh, he's not doing anything. He's just showing up and like having coffee with somebody. And like,
that's what they said. They literally, that's what they complained was like, you have coffee all the time. Like, yeah, it's called sales.
Yeah, exactly. So my point is, and this is one of the questions, and this just goes into a general, like building a business entrepreneurship is like, what's more important, the people you surround yourself with or the plan? Like it sounded like that was a people problem. They were clearly not loyal because you'd put food on their table and give them a great job.
It's definitely the people. And I've made a mistake with people plenty of times in my career.
We all have. Yeah.
I still will. Like one of my mentors said that I fall in love with people too much. Like I see the best in them. But you know what? It's who I am, and that's who I want to be. And I prefer that than being, paranoid and, miserable and always looking over my shoulder. I'd rather trust people and, until they break my trust. You're just going to manage your risk. But yeah, we built this amazing company and I hated it every day. I hated the personalities I was working with. I was really, again, like back to sort of depression. I was really miserable. I was making more money than I ever, had in my life. And I was just utterly, utterly miserable. And I guess there's plenty of, self-help, Tony Robbins type of things that talk about self-sabotage. And I'm sure that relates to golf. I'm sure we can talk about that a bit. But,
I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. Like I'm going way back to Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins,
love Jim Rohn.
Zig Ziglar, the old school guys. That's what I cut my teeth on.
Have you listened to Richard Bandler?
No, I've not heard
So
that
Richard
name.
Bandler and John Grinder invented NLP, and Tony Robbins licensed it from them.
Okay.
So to me, Richard Bandler is one of the most amazing geniuses, and I've watched all his videos and all his courses.
I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, he talks a lot about the mental. He actually talks about a golfer he worked with back in the 80s. And he said he has this thing, and I try to use this, and this is a really interesting. Let's switch to golf for a second because
we can.
We'll come back to the business.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have this, when I was last week at this, or 2 weeks ago when I was at this golf academy for 3 days, I was saying that, look, if you put a tree in front of me, water to the left, green tucked in on the right, and I have to hit and actually I hit the shot of my life just the other week, right? It's a par 5, 18th on my Castle Hills at my course. Dogleg left. I hooked my drive, but I carried all the trouble, the water, and I'm in the rough on the left. But there's a tree in front of me about 10 yards, and the branches are thick, and so basically the green is 240 yards away. There's a creek in front of the green. There's like a wall over the creek, so you have to go uphill, right? About 20 feet up from where I am. And the green's left bunkers, right bunkers. And I'm like, I was saying, it was the first round after my academy, so I'm like, whatever, this round's going to suck anyway. And I'm like, I have 2 friends with me, right? And I'm saying, I'm going to take a driver off the deck, off the rough, right? And I'm going to sting it in the rough, and I'm going to sting it and make it lift up. I have no idea how I'm going to do this, right? But I'm just going to tell my body to do this. And I hit the shot that basically stayed no more than 7 feet above the ground. And it started rising where that wall is, where the creek is. And I hit the green and actually rolled through the green.
Oh my gosh.
On this par 5, right? And the guys were going crazy. They're like, how'd you do this? They were screaming, like, it's like an eagle. Like, they were screaming. And this is my thing in golf. Like, you give me the impossible shot and I can execute it. You give me a 40-foot wide fairway and I will, I don't know where it's going. So
yeah, you're the creative side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's your mindset and that's your learning style.
Richard Bandler has this thing. He talks about this hypnosis session he did with a golfer back in the 80s. He would say, so pick your target. He goes, it's this part of the fairway. He goes, no, pick a blade of grass on the fairway.
Specific, yeah.
Right? And then he said, and then bring that blade about 10 feet in front of you. And imagine you putting the ball onto that blade of grass. And he said, I can't tell you who the golfer is, but he says he won some pretty big tournaments, And I love that story. But you know what? Same applies in business.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go, well, I just want to make $1 million. Okay, how? It's just, you're just never going to get there. And I used to be one of those guys. I used to be like, I want to be a billionaire by the time I'm 30, right? That's not a goal.
No, you got to have a process, right? And I think and like Jim Rohn says, it's not about the $1 million. It's about the journey, right? It's
And
about,
it's such
it's
a
about
cliche.
becoming, what you're becoming in the process of getting the $1 million
And
is
it
what's
is
important.
so cliche, but it's so true. It is almost annoyingly so.
Right. Exactly.
And that's probably, to kind of bring back to your question you asked more at the beginning, I had this conversation with my son just recently, actually, who was 9. I have failed 1,000,000 times, and I've succeeded maybe 10 times, like as a ratio, right? It's probably not that bad, but basically I've probably started 20 businesses and I've succeeded maybe in 2, right? But what those failures have done, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I know it sounds, again, cliche. I sound like one of those Hollywood movies. I wouldn't change it because it made me who I am today. It made my skin so thick that I don't sweat the little stuff, And, one of the other stories which I go into sometimes is, we had, unfortunately, a little boy that didn't make it between my oldest and my youngest. He passed away a day before his C-section due date. So he died in the womb.
Oh, man.
At 39 weeks almost. And, I went through the process and some of the stuff that's happening in the world right now, it kind of drives this point home, right? When you bury a little casket this big, you realize how all the stuff you think is really important is completely meaningless. It's utterly meaningless. And so in the moment when you are, like when the bank is calling you, when the credit card company is calling you, whatever, right? You go, you know what? Everyone's still alive. Like, who cares? Like, they'll wait. And that's one of the lessons I've taught. I've done a couple of speaking events where people ask me, like, how did you survive? Like, because I would get 4 to 8 unlisted numbers calling me a day. Tax department, bank, credit card company, car company, whatever. How did you survive that? And I'm like, you know what? Everyone just waits. As long as you communicate, as long as you don't hide from it. But if you pick up the phone and say, guys, I would love to give you the $100,000 I owe you. I would love to. You have no idea. I want to give it to you more than you want to take it from me. But if I don't have it, if I could come up like this with $100,000, like we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? But I don't have it. So I need time to find a way to make it. And you'd be amazed how those periods when I was in my lowest point in my career, I was $1 million in debt at one point. But I tell everyone, I'm like the Lannisters. I always pay my debts. And, I would just negotiate. I was telling them, listen, guys, I'm doing this. I'm getting this job. I'm getting this contract. I'm going to get paid this on this date. And I'm going to take half of that and I'm going to pay you guys.
As long as they say you're trying, right? I mean, like you're at least giving an effort, like they're going to listen.
And you're genuine. And most people have to realize the people that have lent you money, like banks, credit cards, they would rather see 50 cents in the dollar than 0 cents in the dollar.
Yeah, that's right.
But if you show them that you are working to give them $1 for the dollar, you will gain their respect and you will actually, and again, you create a target for yourself. I would say, I want to pay $200 a week to this credit card company, right? It seems insignificant on a $50,000 credit card balance. But those little habits that you build, eventually you can add another 0 to it, and then eventually another 0. And it's those little steps that end up in whether you're climbing out of a hole or you're climbing up a ladder, climbing to your dreams, the actual process doesn't really change. Just your stress levels do.
Okay, Coach, we're back. Using the stat from earlier, let's break down the net new F&B revenue your coaching business adds to your facility. If a lesson taker spends 65% more on F&B, and we assume they spend $115 per week, that's an additional $45 per week your player is spending on F&B compared to a non-lesson taker. Then let's assume you see 200 players per year. Your business is adding $9,000 per year to F&B revenue. Oh, and by the way, your F&B manager can look up your facility's average check size, allowing you to tune this formula to your specific facility. So, if knowledge is power, you've just become more knowledgeable. The next step is taking action with this newfound power to create change. Estruzi is the only golf coach business management platform built to specific needs of you and solopreneur golf coaches. Coach, if you say yes to the following items, then it's time for you to take full responsibility and full ownership of your value. Create and move your business ops to Estruzi. Do you have a Gmail account, an iPhone or iPad, have your own LLC, constantly switch between 4 to 5 different services to run your business, charge at least $70 per lesson, deliver at least 15 hours of lessons per week? Estruzi not only protects, but amplifies the value you create every day to your players and your facility. A bunch of you already created an account. The download link is in the show notes, or head to Astruzy.com where you can create your account. And don't forget to add the asterisk to your last name so they know the guru sent you. So let's go back to sales. I think that's an important, because again, parallels to what I do and what you do is huge. As golf instructors, we're always trying to sell change, sell our plan, or do the side hustle stuff that, I've always had that sort of entrepreneur mindset to try to create passive income. I haven't done an amazing job of it, but it's, I've had a lot of failures and successes over the years as well. But you say you've never been trained in sales, but it sounds like if you're reading books and you're listening to CDs and stuff exactly. You're doing some stuff. Like, where do you think that came from, and like the evolution of where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It wouldn't be fair for me to say I'm not trained in sales.
Just because you didn't go to a class, right?
I didn't go to a class, but I've done literally every single sales course on the market. I've even done the Wolf of Wall Street. His
oh my gosh,
he's got straight line persuasion. It's actually Jordan. It's actually crap, but I've done it. But I didn't pay for it because he doesn't deserve it. But it's a different conversation. But I've done all. So for me, I was fascinated. You know what? This is a really important point at a high level, right? I fell in love with sales. Like, I don't call it sales. For me, it's influencing, right? It's the ability to how do people influence other people? How do ideas influence people? And so my journey with Tony Robbins and NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis and all of that, I couldn't get enough information, enough books, courses to learn how our brains work. And I was kind of the same with golf. Like, I can talk into pretty deep detail about the golf swing, because that's just how my brain works. Like, I want to go deep.
Okay. We'll definitely do that before we wrap.
Yeah. But the main thing is, I think Steve Jobs said this, or maybe there's plenty of people who said this, it's like, if you are so passionate about it, something, whatever it is, right, that you are prepared to, there's an Aussie phrase, okay? It's a bit crass. Walk through 4 feet of shit wearing 3-foot gumboots, right?
I love it.
Yeah, one of my lecturers taught me that back at school.
Little Gary Vaynerchuk there as well.
Yeah, a little bit, but it was from a very country Aussie teacher. I remember told me that at school. But you're willing to do what no one else is willing to do. And so for me, sales was like, it was that process. Like, I loved I loved getting better. And Tony Robbins talks about, when he would go to McDonald's and stand in line and talk to people and people think he was crazy, but it's like, but he wasn't, to him, he wasn't crazy. He was just so passionate about it. And I felt like, and this is where, again, cliche, find what you're passionate about, then it won't feel like work and you'll succeed. Yes, cliche, but still true.
Yeah. And you go through all these cycles, right? Like, all the stuff you were going through, you knew you were searching for something.
Yeah.
Right. And then we'll get to the golf thing, which sounds like you found it, right? It's like, but you had to go through all the shit to get
absolutely.
There. Yeah.
And I've hired plenty of golf coaches that have worked for me in the past, and they hated golf. I'm like, why are you teaching golf if you hate golf? Because it's kind of what they know what to do, but they hate it. You can't succeed with that. You can't succeed doing something you hate. And, I've had people have told me, you could go sell this or that. And, I'm like, yeah, but I don't like it. I can't bring that fakeness. Like, I'm not like Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I can't fake it. I can't just steal money from you. Some people can. I can't. But you need to find that passion if you want to succeed. And for me, it's like, I'm so lucky because golf is something I love, and I found a business opportunity in it. Multiple business opportunities in it. But you could be a golf pro teaching people and, I don't know, make art. I'm just making stuff. But at least do something that fills your cup of creativity and passion, even if you don't get it in your day job. Because if you at least do that, you can get through the day job much easier. You've got something to look forward to. I think that's a good way to kind of get through life. Yeah,
your side hustle can become your full-time job eventually.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of side hustles. All my staff, I tell them, hey, you want to have a side hustle? I support you.
Yeah.
No problem.
But don't quit your job until you have another job. That's what I think you learned along the way there too. It's like, I just got to quit because I'm unhappy. Like, okay, now I got to pay my bills and pay the
cash flow's king. Cash flow's king.
I love it. All right, so talk about when you got into golf. You kind of alluded to it earlier, and then tell us what you're doing now with simulators and the passion.
Yeah, so I've been obviously golf simulator space. Manufacturing golf simulators, like the enclosures and the screens. And then there was this, talk about sliding doors moments, yet again. So I had SkyTrack launch monitors, right, in my indoor studios. And SkyTrack doesn't have its own, video software, right? And I didn't have the money to buy, Swing Catalyst, which was kind of the main product back, 2016 it was. And so I hired a guy to write some software that would kind of, when the SkyTrack shot would trigger, it would kind of rewind back the video and kind of play it for my clients on a second TV. And I was using these USB cameras, and they were okay. And I had a Samsung S9 at the time, right? So this is how long ago this was, Samsung S9. And I said, I wonder if this phone could do a better job as a camera than the camera. And so we hooked up 2 phones. It did a really good job. I'm like, could we use this phone to track the ball? And 7 years later, yes, we can. But it took 7 years to get there.
Yeah, you had to hire somebody that writes code and does some stuff, right?
I have 15 staff now. But basically, yeah. So, and, I use the e-commerce, again, talking about side hustles, right? The e-commerce business, like I enjoyed, I loved it. But this app, Golftrak, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but that was like my spark. I'm like, this is how I want to put my mark on this industry. And so that business kind of allowed me to fund this business and grow it. And, there was moments when I nearly gave up, and there were moments when my head developer just had a mental breakdown, wiped out all the code, all of it. And he was like a hacker. He was a Russian hacker. So when he wipes it, like it was wiped.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I had to start from scratch halfway through, right? But again, at the time I don't want to even go into the detail. Actually, the first time I had collapsed at one point, I remember I had such an anxiety attack that the first time in my life I actually just I managed to walk into my doctor's office because I was driving past it. I'm like I didn't know how I was driving. I pulled over, ran into them, opened the door, and just went bang on the floor.
People don't realize I went through some panic attacks back in the day after almost dying in a marathon. Oh, wow. Running a marathon. Yeah, I didn't connect those two, but I think that sort of had something to do with it. And people don't realize, like, you don't know where you're at. Like, you don't know, your body is not functioning. You think you're dying.
There's some autopilot. Yeah, there's some autopilot.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's not, I would not wish it on anyway. So I get where you're at, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
and so I went from that to, I thought, this is the end. I've spent all this time and money, and, I've spent a few $100,000 at that point. But at the time, especially, that was a lot of money for me. It still is, don't get me wrong. But looking back, it's the best thing that could have happened to me. And this is what people, I think, this is the hardest thing to tell someone as a lesson until you go through it yourself. You don't know whether what's happening to you right now is the worst thing or the best thing. You just don't know. If you have a bit of faith in yourself and God, if you believe in God, or the universe, if you believe in the universe, or whatever, right? Or tarot cards, if you believe in tarot cards. But, whatever you believe in, right? But you got to have some faith that you have. Actually, it's faith and it's trust. You have to trust yourself to work it out. This is where, I think I've learned that along the way. When I have conversations with my kids, my wife, we talk about trying to build resilience in my kids, right? And I talk about it, I'm saying, you need to do the little things that show you that you are capable of achieving X, Y, Z, which builds trust in yourself. So I don't know what's coming tomorrow, but what I do know is that I have the skills to deal with it.
There you go. I was about to bring up what Jim Rohn always talks about is they can take all the money away from you. You can have all these things happen. They cannot take away your skills.
That's right.
And the thing absolutely. And what I admire the most about you is you've bet on yourself your entire life, right? Even though you've gone through ups and downs and depression and whatnot, but you still have that inner driven passion to I know I can get out of this, and I know I can provide for my family, and I know I can go forward.
And that's you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to be a little bit crazy to do that. And
absolutely.
There's one interview where Steve Jobs and Bill Gates are on the same stage. I think it's only happened once or twice ever. And they asked, how do you keep going? And both of them said the same thing, which is you have to be crazy enough to just believe that you will get to the end destination no matter what. And I don't know how to teach that to someone, except it's just there or it's not, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm with you, because I mentor a lot of young coaches and young professionals coming into the business, and it's you kind of got to have it, right? It's you have that it factor, or, it's, I don't know, there's a lot of little indicators that we know, but I'm sure it's the same way in your business.
You have to give yourself we talk about probabilities, right?
Yeah.
All you can do is work on the little steps that will give you the best possible probability of succeeding. You may not succeed, but at least you've given yourself a chance.
So when did you launch Golftrak? How long was it? I didn't see that.
7 years in development. So we launched in September 22. We launched an open beta. We managed to get about 12,000 people to download it and use it, and we improved it. And then before the PGA show this year, so in January this year, we launched the commercial version. We're still going slowly, but we're about to, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're about to announce a really big deal with a big golf company, a collaboration where we're basically white labeling the app to other apps. So, I want to be what we're good at is really the technology that we built, which is, for those that don't know, basically It's a launch window using the cameras on your phone.
I was about to say, describe how it's different, because I think that's the special thing about it is you're using your phone. You don't have to have
so it's already in your pocket, right? It's at the moment it's iOS only, but hopefully we'll get to Android. It's a long story why, but basically what we do is the camera, the phone sits on a tripod about a driver length away from the ball. It works outdoors, indoors, like into a net, into a screen. We're integrated with E6 Connect, with GS Pro, with 2K21. We've got more software coming. And the idea is basically, it's a race to the bottom, right? You've seen it in the market if you've been in the golf industry long enough. You had TrackMan, GC Quad, then SkyCheck was a huge thing in the market where they came out at $2,000 and delivered a professional grade product. But now there's products like Garmin R10 and Rhapsody MLM2, and there's downward pressure on the market, right? Because the lower the price, the more people can afford it. What's the lowest price?
That's
free.
The problem you're solving right now is like affordability, right?
Yeah, so it's free, it's affordability, and it's also risk, right? Because you could, at the moment, to get into the simulator space, you need to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, right? That's a lot of risk to put in if you're not sure if it's going to really work for you. So what I'm saying is you can try this very risk-free. It's free. It's $100 a year, $150 a year if you want to play virtual courses, like $10 a month, right? You can buy a $50 mat on eBay or Amazon, $100 net, and off you go.
So is it giving you club delivery data, or is it just giving you ball data?
It gives you ball data. We do calculate club data. We have algorithms. But basically what we measure, I'll tell you what we measure because, so we can get a little
that'd
bit
be great.
technical. So we measure ball speed, vertical launch angle, horizontal launch angle, launch direction. And we measure the club path, in to out, square, out to in. We need that to be able to calculate spin axis, distance, carry, height, etc. And also club face and all of that.
So it does know where the club face is and where the path is moving.
Yeah, so we know the path just for the shape of the shot, but basically everything else, and look, we're doing some pretty rigorous testing, call it between 5 and 8% on average, and we will get better because we use deep learning algorithms. The more data you feed it, the better it gets, right? You've seen it with ChatGPT. We call it 5% error rate on ball speed to a GC quad, plus or minus 1,000 RPM for all clubs. We're within 1 degree for launch angle, maybe a couple of degrees for direction because of where the phone sometimes can shift and stuff. But the point is, we are so close to a $10,000, $20,000 device that it almost becomes a moot point. And this is where I kind of want my vision for Golftrak is not to be a competitor to any of these products that are out there, right? My vision is to open up a new market. My vision is what Topgolf did for the golf industry, which is it created a whole new market, a whole new people that never used to interact with golf now love golf or their version of golf. I want to take that Topgolf experience and bring it home to people, right? So you can have it at home. You can have it with what you already have in your pocket. And you can play virtual golf, you can play games, you can get better, you can do training, whatever. Whatever it is you want, you get it with your phone. Look at what's happened with GPS, golf GPS, right? You used to have all these devices, right? Now you have so many apps.
Right.
It's all in the apps. And now you have it on the watch. I've got my Ultra, where I use Golf Shot from Shot Zoom to track all my stats. It does auto swing detection. It's got Swing ID now, which is super cool, et cetera, et cetera. So it's everything's becoming on your phone. We used to have cameras. We don't have cameras anymore. You used to have to scan things. Now you just take a photo and converts it straight to PDF and does OCR on it, right? That technology used to cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And this is what's happening in the golf industry. And it's happening not just in golf, in other sports, but to me, in golf, the launch monitor is a tool. It's just a means to an end. My vision is to allow people to have fun with it. I'm more entertainment. I want you to have a Topgolf experience at home, not a TrackMan experience. Not having go TrackMan, but just from a professional data point of view. I don't want you to be obsessed with your spin numbers. I want you to hit a shot, go, yeah, that's the shot I hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Why do you think the 24/7 didn't take? Because that seems like it would be, it's like a turnkey deal. Maybe people abused it too much, maybe? They took advantage of it?
No, it's a much simpler reason, and you're going to laugh because it's happened so many times around the world. Wrong place, wrong time.
So I know people are trying, it's still going, and there's somebody.
There's hundreds of them now. There's hundreds of them now. I was too early, and I was in Australia. If I was in the US, I would have done it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So 24/7. So I think the concept's great, and it's really funny. People have asked me to help them build it here. And I'm like, look, I'm not getting involved in retail again. But it's just, if I was in America, if I was in Dallas in 2016 opening, I would have probably 200 of them now.
Yeah. There's instruction places now that are similar.
And what I used to do is I used to rent out space to instructors to teach because driving range would charge them, I think, 30% of their lesson. I said, just pay me a fixed fee, like $200 a week, do as many lessons as you want. And it was great for everyone. Yeah, so it's just, you're solving a problem. I was just solving it in the wrong place. So
got it.
Another good lesson.
So you want to talk about your golf game? You want to share a little bit about, because I'm curious from your side, like outside looking into our industry, is like, what's your experience been taking lessons, your progression, just anything that you could share from a golfer standpoint? Like, how can we do better?
So look, I'm not an athlete, right? So although I'm a mental athlete, so another little story that I didn't mention earlier is when I was 9 years old, I was the chess champion of Moldova back in the Soviet Union. Well,
so Bobby Fischer.
Mini, much worse version. So I have the competitiveness, that I have, but I wasn't physically an athlete. But I have the ambition, aggression, and that competitiveness, right? So that's why I want to play from scratch.
And you're like, tell the listeners you're a 6 now, you said, or 5?
Just under 5, about 4.5.
There you go. So you're playing.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
And you started 14 years ago.
I started 14 years ago. Yeah, I was like 32 handicap. I was, for a long time, I had these plateau moments. So the last time I plateaued was around 16 handicap, 14, 16, back about 4 years ago, 4.5. It's hard to know now because during COVID, Melbourne, where I was the most locked down city in the world, 286 days of lockdown. Golf was banned. Fishing was banned. It wasn't safe for the fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The fish had to wear masks. Let's just not go there. It's too politically incorrect. So it's hard for me to tell how many years ago I was at the handicap, but I was there. And I had a golf coach who used to work for me in my warehouse in sales support, a great guy, Jason Louis. He worked for Cobra Puma for a long time, and he actually fitted Bryson a couple of times. And he said, look, you're trying to get into positions that your body cannot. So he kind of worked with me to rebuild my swing, and I went to, and actually I had my customer, Gary Edwin, over in Queensland. He's one of the most famous coaches in Australia.
I've heard him.
He has this thing, you've heard, right? So
yes.
he bought a couple of simulators of me, and he taught Jason when Jason was a pro. And so I worked with both of them on this thing called right-sided swing. And so I went, I'm going to forget everything I know, and I'm just going to do what you tell me. And so I rebuilt my whole swing from scratch. And then he also said, because he worked with Bryson and Cobra, he's like, I think you should switch to one length. And I'm like, let's do it. And so for the first 3 months, it was a disaster.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, yeah. So
all mine are 7-iron lengths from my basically 58 degree to 4-iron, same length.
Interesting.
And I've thought about going back to normal, but what I love about the one length, and some of your listeners may relate to this, right? Not the golf pros, but like hacks like me, right? That have like day jobs and stuff. I can go to a driving range with one club and I've worked on every iron in my bag. Same position, same swing, same everything.
Except for the loft.
Except for the loft. Ball placement, everything the same. And so
you play a 4-iron in the middle of your stance?
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
And so my consistency improved like out of this world. So I went from 16, 15 handicap to like 8, 9, right? And it was a combination of with the one length, and then I still had a few issues from the tee box. And then I've been working on some things, and I got down to obviously 5, and I got like 4 to 5, and I just plateaued. So one of my good friends, Gareth, who worked for USGA, he was actually instrumental in building the Gin app that you are familiar with. And he's now actually working with me on some stuff at the Golftrak. And he introduced me to Mike Bender and Cheryl Anderson. So I went over there and did some work. And it was funny because so much of golf instruction is so technical, right? My wife is, by the way, getting some lessons at Golftech, obviously.
And you're in Dallas, is that correct?
I'm in Dallas.
Yeah,
I'm in Dallas. And she gets a lot of data, and she's not a data person. She's a very field person. I'm the data person. And so, but I'm like, it's interesting we have these different experiences.
It's not going to be good for her.
She's not enjoying it as much as I do. She's working on it, and that's the main thing. But when Cheryl, she said, she like took me to a wall, right? And she's like, just imagine with your back pocket, you got to do this line, right, on the wall as you do your takeaway. And like did that 5 times, hit a shot, and like my world changed.
Yeah. You're a visual learner, bro. You're like your visual/feel and kinesthetic guy.
I'm a very kinesthetic guy.
I could have figured that out in 5 minutes.
There you go. and
look at your shirt.
Yeah. This is not even my loudest shirt. This is like medium.
Okay.
So I'm now working on this new swing, and I'm hitting it. I've picked up a lot of distance. And then they have this person, I forgot his name, which I feel bad because I really want to do a shout out to him. But he's a former drummer, and he, if I find it on my phone, I may have an app.
Former drummer, like in a band?
He's like a former drummer in a band.
Okay.
So he does this rhythm work with you for like an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. Works for Bender?
Yes, for Mike Bender. That's right.
Okay.
And maybe later we can put it in the description or something. And so he got me into this beat, and he said there's different beats, and we experimented with a few different beats. And I landed on T27, which is the same beat as Rory, which is quite quick transition, right? And so he records this music rhythm for you. And he plays it on the speaker, or you can put it in your AirPods. And then it's like there's like a pre-shot routine part of it, and then you take away and then hit. And then when you hit, there's like this big drum bang, so that you know that's when you're supposed to hit. And I kid you not, 15 minutes, like working on that rhythm, I gained 10% club head speed.
Wow.
And not only that, like I was striping them, and it was all on video. Like
This is driver swings?
No, this is, I had a 7-9 at the time. 7-9, yeah.
Okay.
I went from 157, 160 yards to 185 to 190 carry with a 7-9.
Okay.
Just striping it. And little baby draw is just, I'm like, what? How's this happening? Right?
Not John Novosel, is it?
No,
He's the
listen,
Tour Tempo guy? I don't think he works for Bender. But the
No,
guy
he
who
doesn't
wrote
work there. He just comes in, does a tour tempo.
This might have been, he was
Hold on, let me.
3-to-1 ratio guy. Yeah, he wrote a book called Tour Tempo.
It's something, the word tempo.
It's probably him. It's probably John Novosel. Yeah, there's something to it.
It was amazing. It was truly, I'm going to have to find
Yeah,
this.
no, you can text me later.
Yeah.
We'll put it in there.
But it was really amazing. And so I'm working on basically the tempo thing, just very consistent. I also work with another customer of mine in Australia on the mental game, which I think is really important. I think most golfers that I speak to have very little idea about the mental part of the game. They focus so much on their swing, on mechanics, and they're just like, it's all here, you know? My view is like, if you've hit one perfect shot ever in your life, your body knows how to do it. You're the one who ruins it.
No doubt.
You got to get out of your own way.
There's a lot of ways to do that. Yeah.
And the other thing is like this swing. I worked for years to try to increase my angle of attack with my driver, right? Back 5 years ago, I was minus 7 degrees.
Oof.
I know.
Not good.
Talk about, not good. I got up to plus 6 degrees, which I thought was
I don't hit down on my
impossible.
wedge that much.
Yeah. So I got up to 6 degrees up with this new swing mechanic. So I'm pretty excited by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just always grinding out. But when I grind, again, I want, it's same as business. You know, you got to do the little steps. You got to work on it. You got to grind at it. It's not just going to happen overnight. It's not going to be from watching. It's like, you know, I know so many people who watch YouTube videos, you know, swing tips. I'm like, it's like watching some guy who's going to tell you you're going to get rich by watching a 6-minute video on cryptocurrency trading, and tomorrow you're going to be a millionaire. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do it?
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah, where do you play in Dallas? You play at a club?
Yeah, I live at a place called Castle Hills, the lakes at Castle Hills. So I live on the course, play here, member here, I love it. They used to have Q School here. It's a great track. I love traveling around the world, playing different golf courses. If you're ever in Melbourne, let me know. I live 10 minutes from Royal Melbourne. Alistair, who runs my Australian business, he's a member there.
I would love to travel to Australia.
Melbourne has the most insane golf. Like, just, it's all like in one space. Like, it's some of the best golf in the world.
Yeah, I've got a couple of members that I teach that their daughter live out there, and they travel out there, and they've played all the courses, and it's amazing. Amazing country. Very cool.
Yeah. So did you think we covered kind of the business to golf and golf to business kind of bridge?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm just curious, man. I just want to know what makes you tick. I think you did a good job. It's hard to know. Yeah, it's hard to know like what direction that you want to, what do you want to share, right? It's like, that's the thing when you're a guest and you're on the other side, which I've been a guest on a lot of podcasts. Like you forget stuff. You're like, oh yeah, that was, I remember that story, right? Growing up, but you've been through a lot, and that's like, it's just such an interesting story, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Well, I think that the future is even when I think golf is going through a really interesting.
Yeah, what's your perspective on that? Yeah, I think the industry itself our side of it's going through a lot, just because there's so much like almost information overload and how we sort of separate ourselves and help our players. But like from the tech standpoint, where do you see the future?
I think golf simulation, launch monitors, all of that, I think is kind of a must now. Like I think this is what I want to do with Golftrak, but I think everyone should have it. In the same way, like I think everyone should use the golf GPS. Like, why wouldn't you in this day and age? Know your distances, see where the trouble is, really work the course, unless you're just there hitting balls and having not a care in the world. I think there's so much technology. I think where we're going to see a lot of, even in the last year, I've seen probably 4 or 5 new apps to do with, your body tracking. Like Sportsbox AI. I know Jiha has done an amazing job. I met her couple of weeks ago in Frisco, but again,
Motion to Coach is doing a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've dealt with them. I got a good friend that works for them. It's unbelievable.
Right. And there's Uplift AI, there's Vuex from Idea Lab, there's Mustard Golf, there's all these new ones, right? There's Sparrow Golf. But I think where the differentiation is going to be, and this is kind of where someone asked me the other week, I think another podcast, they said, like, how do you see yourself different from all these other apps that have started to spring up in the golf, like as a launch monitor? And I said, look, there's some really good ones out there, but being a good app in terms of like tracking the ball is not enough. That's your ticket to play. I think what I'm trying to achieve is make it fun and accessible and enjoyable. Improve through the joy of just using it, playing golf, hitting golf balls. And the improvement will come naturally as you practice the movements and all of that. I think with like instruction, I think where AI is going to come in is really, it's going to almost take away I think the first place is going to be diagnosis. So, you go do a swing evaluation or whatever, at Golftrak, for example, right? So I think that whole diagnosis is going to go very much into AI. And from there, it will be, I think the next thing will be supervised practice, which is, have you seen that thing that like shocks you, goes on your wrist? It's like a watch.
Shocks you? Okay.
Yeah,
no.
that's like electric shock. It's like Pavlov's dog.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I met the guys at the PGA show last year and I met them again this year and they've grown tremendously. I can't remember the name of it. But basically it's for chipping and they're doing it for putting, I think now. But it's as you move, as you get into the wrong position, it shocks you.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny actually, first time. Yeah. My point is that I think it's going to evolve into supervised practice where, you're being guided after every swing. Like, hey, if you're trying to hit like into out, that wasn't it, that wasn't it. Oh, that was it. How did that feel, right? And try to bed down that. And then eventually, there's a possibility that golf instruction will start to get replaced with AI as well.
Yeah, I don't think the human element is ever going to be replaced. We still have to make the decisions in the personal relationship of being there, I think is the only thing we've got going for us. But you're 100% correct. It's already happening. TrackMan's got Tracy, right? It's like it can tell you like, hey, you need to work on your club face, but you need a golf instructor to actually help you with that and like what direction do you go to improve that element of the game. But it's going to give you some direction, I think. And the goggles, I think, is going to be the next thing with like putt view is amazing, where you can actually see the breaks and work on your putting and stuff. That's the thing I think is going to be really good.
I agree. But you with the coach, like what I was saying with my wife, like she wants someone to like take her hands and show her what is supposed to
That's
feel.
Nobody can replace what I do when I put my hands on my players. Like I can move them and create a feel and attach that to a picture and to some data that really speeds along the process. So that's what she's probably missing a little bit.
But the one thing I'll also, and I forgot to mention this earlier, is that the work I've done on my swing indoors, so on a launch monitor into a screen, has been like experimentation. That creativity you talked about before, right? So like I know how to move a ball low right to left, high right to left, low left to right, etc. Right? And I do that. I don't do that on the course. I don't even do that on the range. But you put me on a screen, I'm like, I'll go and try all these wacky shots. And then you realize you can actually execute them on the real thing. So that's another thing where I see like this simulation, like the Golftrak would potentially help, or other launch monitors, where the more you use it indoors, the more you can take that skill. You build your toolbox. You can then take it on the course. And you can pull off shots like that crazy low stinger that I did that I didn't even know I could do.
That's awesome.
But you've got to trust your body, right?
Absolutely.
You got to trust that moment. I wasn't thinking I'm going to take it away at 3 degrees and go to 82%, transfer my weight 40%.
You got to have, you have to have the information, but then ultimately you've got to connect that to a swing feel. I'd basically separate those into swing thoughts versus swing feels. Swing thoughts you can practice with and you start making some adjustment, but you ultimately have to play with swing feels, which is totally innate instinct, like you said, creating pictures and painting the shot, right? It's like and self-discovery is a big deal. Like I think you make a good point there is once you get some sort of foundation, then people don't practice enough by doing the crazy stuff. Learn how to hit a big slice, learn how to hit a big hook. What does it feel like? What are you doing, right? It's like, and then find the middle. Everybody wants to hit it straight. And I'm like, that's not an option. That's not,
How to shot in golf.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, people are like, I just want to hit it straight. I'm like, well, that's not an option. You're in the wrong place. We got to pick a side. It's about repeatable ball flight you can basically rely on that it's coming. That's it. Doesn't matter what it is, so that's cool. Well, good luck with your journey there, man.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
I appreciate the time. It's flown by so quickly.
I know.
It's fun chatting. I mean, I don't know many other topics. Maybe we're just both so obsessed with golf. We can make it this time go past it feels like a couple of minutes,
Absolutely. Well, maybe we'll have a part 2 in the future here if we
would love to
continue to build this relationship. But I appreciate your time and you coming on, and I really admire you as a person and your journey, because I think it's inspiring, and my money's on you, dude. I'm not going to bet against you at all.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell the listeners how they can follow you on socials, how they can get a hold of your product, and if you got any programs that you're rolling out there.
Look, I'll share a program with your listeners. I'll give you a link and a code that you guys can download and get a bit extra trial period. But the website is obviously www.golftrak.app. I'm on LinkedIn. Still working on my other socials. You won't find me on TikTok though. I can tell you that now. And
gotta get there, man.
I don't know.
It might be going away.
Yeah, exactly. It might be banned in a month. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, just on just normal socials. LinkedIn is probably the best social to connect with. I spend a lot of time on there. But yeah, I would love feedback. And if you have an iPhone, do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Excellent. Well, I'll send you some codes. Please download it. Would love your thoughts, your feedback with students and stuff. I had another coach over in Columbus, in Ohio, use it with some students. And it's been great because, again, students that don't want to go and spend $3,000-$4,000. So it's a great way.
Yeah, I'm always getting that question to my students, what should I get? And if I believe in something, I'm going to push it and promote it. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time, man. Best of luck to you and your companies and kids and everything else that you're doing. So good stuff.
Look forward to the next one.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Guru here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to Igor for coming on the show and sharing his incredible insight on business and life that I know will help us all to be better coaches, better business people, and also better human beings. I thought that was an awesome combo. Make sure you follow him and Golftrak on Instagram at Golftrak, and check out his website at Golftrak.app. And check out the promo code in the show notes that will give you some discounts or some free time in your subscription. Thanks again to our sponsor, Estruzi. Make sure you go download the app and check it out. Make sure that you add the asterisk after the name so we know that you heard it from the show. Also, you can follow me on X or Twitter or Instagram at Golf Guru TV. I'd appreciate the follow. If you have a question or comment about the show, just email me at golfgurushow@gmail.com or just hit me up on the DM. I enjoy the DMs. I try to get back to you as soon as I can. This episode was produced by Joel North. Thank you, Joel, for your continued excellent work. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullett. And leave me an iTunes review or a Spotify review. That'd be awesome. It's what keeps us going and keeps us moving up the rating charts. And as I always leave you with the Jim Rohn quote that I live by: study, practice, teach, and then make sure you pass it on. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you next time.